president of the U.S.? Probably Abe Lincoln, for what he did for, slaves, African slaves in particular, at a time when views on freeing the slaves was not popular. He stepped up. He was very unconventional in his approach. He was kind of ahead of his time, so to speak.
I know it's very cliche to say Abraham Lincoln, and it's partly due to the fact that I know very little about our U.S. presidents. But I like Abraham Lincoln for the very idealistic and romantic reasons that he spoke truth to power even when it cost him his life. And that is a normative kind of moral guide that seems to very much still be lacking, particularly in politics. And so, even if it's something that we romanticize entirely, that's not necessarily a bad thing when it can teach us something very important about morality.
My favorite president of the United States is Thomas Jefferson, because I've heard many stories about him, and I heard that he was the first president to make a iftar in the White House.
My favorite president is Thomas Jefferson. And the reason for this is he was a very knowledgeable man, and he took the time to educate himself. And many people don't know this, but he actually read the Quran and kept a copy of the Quran. And I found out about this a while ago, actually, when Keith Ellison, congressman, when he was sworn into office, instead of being sworn in with a Bible, he was sworn in with Thomas Jefferson's copy of the Quran, which I really respect.
I think TR, because of the man who he was before he was president, while he was president, he got Rockefeller, he got him to court. Like, what president does that? Imagine if there was some kind of antitrust going on right now, and President Obama called up Bill Gates and said, he didn't call, TR didn't call up Rockefeller, but sued him in court and broke up his monopoly just because he had to. Like, men of courage.
People ask me who my favorite president was, and I'd have to say FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And see, even if I say that though, because he did a lot for ordinary American people, but then on the other hand, he put Japanese people in internment camps. So everybody has positive and negative. Everybody's gonna have something that they do that was good and something they did that was bad.
If I was to pick one, it would probably be John F. Kennedy. And John F. Kennedy was making a lot of unpopular decisions to people in high power, because what I saw was a sincere effort to help the common man, and it reflected, some people you could tell that it's going through the motions, but if you calculate all the events through his life and the way that he acted and the way that his wife acted and what they did on a constant basis, on an everyday basis, you could see that he was really generally concerned about the people.
So it's hard for me to have a favorite president because they all did things that I thought weren't good or upright or noble. But having said that, a former president that I have come to respect more is Jimmy Carter. And he's not one of the most famous presidents. I don't think he was a popular president when he was in office. He was the president when I was born, but I don't really have I didn't know much about his presidency, but after his presidency, the work he's done in the political realm, especially his stance on Israel and Palestine, and to have written a book really putting out there what he feels, even though it's not a popular opinion, and then his work with Habitat for Humanity, and really, sincere dedication to this work. And from his perspective, it's he's motivated by his own faith, sense of faith to do this kind of work. I think what would be interesting is if we knew more about these presidents after they were presidents, because I feel like when they're a president, they're so confined by so many things, going through the Senate or going through their cabinet, that we don't really know what the president himself feels or does or wants. Sort of after their presidency that all this stuff comes out.
I like Clinton as a president. Obviously we all know, personal shortcomings that got exposed, but in terms of, I like my president to be able to look at the camera and explain things and not feel like he's speaking on script. Clinton had an amazing ability to articulate, and I think that's important.
I would say, of course, I like our current president, Barack Hussein Obama, for many reasons. First of all, he broke this racial barrier.
He has a lot of issues, but he did break this barrier, and he's done medically. He's helped a lot of people. A lot of people don't like his plan, but it's good. I work in the medical field, and I know how much people need insurance. I work in impoverished communities. That was one of the best things that he could have ever done.
I don't have one. Now, I know that sounds kind of, anti-political or what have you, but I've never really taken much of a political stance, as it were. Many of the presidents that have come and gone are were elected by, a certain time frame based off of certain needs and certain situations. And many of them will make decisions based off of what was necessary at the time. Now, to choose a favorite is it would be unfair for me because I didn't live in certain times. I didn't know what the mindset of the people were at the time, or the kind of decisions that he had to make, and what all the factors were.
I don't think that I have a favorite president of the United States. Maybe I will like one in the future, but after growing up and attending public schools, learning so much of the supposed good activities that they did, and then as a young adult and civil rights activist, learning about the other side to all of those stories, learning about their intentions, learning about the people that they killed for supposed good causes, the impacts that they've had in other countries. I have a real hard time identifying with a favorite U.S. president. I think where I find my heroes are within the people who challenged those presidents.